So, are you Chinese? That was the first thing his father asked me. Not how are you? Not welcome to the family. No, I'm Korean American, born and raised in Seattle. My fiance's mother looked me up down, confused. But you look so Chinese, she said with a shocking surprise. Oh, well, all Asians look alike, don't they? His dad said mockingly. How do you say your name again? I'm Jiwon, I say quietly. Jaiwan? Can we just call you Jenny? That's when I realized this wasn't a family, it was a test I was never meant to pass. After 2 years of dating Michael, I was finally meeting his extended family at their annual Patterson family gathering. Michael had warned me his family was traditional, but I figured that just meant formal dinners and polite conversation. I'd been preparing for weeks, choosing the right dress, practicing small talk. I wanted them to love me the way Michael did. When we walked into the elegant private dining room at the country club, Michael's father, Richard, immediately approached us with a wide smile. There's our son and his Asian fiancée, he announced loudly to the room. Everyone, come meet Michael's fiancée. The extended family gathered around. Aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents from across the country, all dressed in their country club finest. Many of them were meeting me for the first time, having only heard about Michael's fiancée through phone calls and holiday cards. I smiled nervously as Michael began the introductions. Everyone, this is Jiwon Lee, my fiancée. Richard's smile faltered slightly. Jiwon, that's interesting. Do you go by a better-sounding American name? Something easier for us to remember? I felt my stomach drop. It's just Ji-woon, I said quietly. Jiwon Lee. Right, Richard said with a dismissive wave. We'll work on that. Maybe Jennifer, Jenny, something that flows better at family gatherings. Michael squeezed my hand. Dad, her name is Jawan. It's not hard to say. Of course, Richard laughed. I'm just thinking about the wedding invitations, the announcements. You know how these things work, son. Michael's Aunt Barbara chimed in with a saccharine smile. What Richard means is we're so excited to welcome you to the family, dear. Where are you from originally? Seattle, I replied. Born and raised. No, she laughed. Where are you really from? Seattle, I repeated, my voice smaller now. She means your family background, Richard explained, as if I were too simple to understand the question. Your people, my people. I'd been having this conversation my whole life. My family is Korean American. My father immigrated here 30 years ago. Ah, Richard clapped his hands together. Korea, wonderful people, very hardworking, great at business, I hear. What does your father do? He's in finance, I said carefully. Finance? Of course, Barbara exclaimed. It's so wonderful how your people are naturally good with numbers. Such a gift. I wanted to disappear. Around us, other family members nodded and smiled, as if this was perfectly normal conversation. Michael's grandmother Eleanor tottered over, squinting at me through her glasses. She's very pretty, Michael. Good bone structure. They age well, and I'm sure she'll keep you organized. They're very neat, very efficient. They, them, your people. I wasn't Jiwon anymore. I was a representative of an entire continent. During cocktails, Richard cornered me by the bar. So, Jiwon, Jenny, tell me about your family. What kind of business is your father in exactly? Real estate? Import-export? Restaurant? Mortgage lending, I answered. Mortgage lending. His eyes lit up. How wonderful. Small operation? Local credit union type thing? Something like that, I said, not wanting to elaborate. Michael appeared beside me. Dad, leave her alone. Let's go find our table. But Richard wasn't done. It's fascinating how your community builds these tight-knit business networks. Really admirable. I'm sure your father works very hard. He does, I said quietly. And I bet you're planning to help with the family business after the wedding, right? Keep everything in the family? That's how your people do it, isn't it? Before I could answer, the dinner chimes rang. Michael guided me away, but I could hear Richard telling someone behind us, "Sweet girl, very traditional. They really know how to raise daughters properly." At dinner, I was seated between Michael's Uncle Tom and his cousin Jessica. The conversation immediately turned to the wedding planning. Have you chosen a venue yet? Jessica asked sweetly. Somewhere that accommodates your cultural requirements? Cultural requirements? I asked. Oh, you know. She waved her hand vaguely. Special foods, ceremonies, that sort of thing. We want to make sure you feel comfortable. We're having a regular wedding, Michael interjected. Church ceremony, country club reception. Of course, Tom nodded. But surely you'll want to incorporate some of your traditions, the bowing, the special outfits. Very colorful, I imagine. I stared at him. I'm Presbyterian, third generation. Right, but your cultural heritage, Barbara called from across the table. It's important to honor your roots. Maybe some of those beautiful silk dresses. What do you call them? Kimonos. Those are Japanese, I said quietly. Oh, of course, sorry. What do Koreans wear? Help us understand your culture better. Your culture. As if I'd grown up in Seoul instead of suburban Seattle. As if I didn't know more about American wedding traditions than most of them. Richard stood up to give a toast. Welcome to our annual Patterson family reunion, everyone, he began, raising his glass. And a special welcome to Jenny here, who's joining our family tradition for the first time. I didn't correct him. We're so excited to have Michael marry such a lovely, traditional girl. I'm sure she'll take wonderful care of our son. They're very devoted wives, you know. The room murmured approval. I felt like an exhibit at a museum. And her father, Richard continued, a hardworking businessman in the finance industry. We respect that entrepreneurial spirit. Building something from nothing, that's the American dream. Everyone applauded. I forced a smile, feeling sick. After dinner, during the dancing, Michael's young cousin approached me. Are you going to teach me karate? He asked excitedly. I don't know karate, I replied. But you're Asian, he said, confused. His mother laughed. Bobby, not all Asian people know martial arts, though I bet Jiwon knows something, don't you, dear? I shook my head. Bobby looked disappointed. What about cooking? Barbara asked. I'd love to learn some authentic recipes. We should have you over to teach me how to make sushi. I don't really cook Japanese food, I said. Korean food, then. Same idea, right? It wasn't the same idea. Nothing about this was the same idea. Later, while Michael was catching up with his college roommate who'd flown in from Denver, Eleanor pulled me aside. You seem like a sweet girl, she said. But I have to ask, are you sure you'll be happy here? With our family? Our traditions? What do you mean? I asked. Well, dear, you're very different. Your background, your culture. Sometimes these mixed marriages can be challenging. Have you thought about what your children will look like? What they'll go through? I stared at her, speechless. I'm just saying, she continued, maybe it's better to stay with your own kind. Less complicated for everyone. That's when I decided to call my father. I stepped outside onto the club's terrace and dialed his number. Dad, can you come pick me up? What's wrong, sweetheart? His voice was immediately concerned. I'm at Michael's family reunion and I need you to come. Please. Are you okay? Did something happen? I took a shaky breath. Just come. I'll text you the address. And Dad, maybe wear your best suit. Jiwon, what's going on? I think it's time for you to meet Michael's family. 40 minutes later, I watched a black town car pull up to the country club. My father stepped out wearing a three-piece suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. David Lee, CEO of Pacific West Lending, one of the largest mortgage companies on the West Coast. I met him at the entrance. Dad, thank you for coming. What happened in there? He asked, studying my face. They keep calling me Jenny. They asked if I have a better-sounding American name. They want to know about my cultural requirements for the wedding. They told me I should stay with my own kind. My father's jaw tightened. And Michael? He tries to defend me, but it's his family, Dad. This is what I'll be marrying into. Show me, he said quietly. We walked back into the private dining room together. Richard immediately spotted us and hurried over, his face switching to his practiced business smile. You must be Jiwon's father, Richard Patterson. He extended his hand. So wonderful to meet you. We've heard you're in the finance business. David Lee, my father replied with a measured handshake. Yes, I am. Excellent. Local credit union, community banking, mortgage lending, my father said simply. Ah, great business, very stable. I imagine you work with a lot of families in your community? Your community, there it was again. I work with all kinds of families, my father replied. In fact, I believe we may have worked together before. Richard looked confused. Oh? I don't think so. I would have remembered. Patterson Family Trust, my father said calmly. Refinance on your primary residence 2 years ago. Also, the loan on this country club membership. And I believe your son Michael has a mortgage with us as well. The color drained from Richard's face. Your Pacific West Lending? I am Pacific West Lending, my father corrected. Around us, the extended family had gathered, sensing drama. Barbara stepped forward. Richard, what's going on? This is David Lee, Richard said weakly. He owns our mortgage company. The room went silent. My father pulled out his phone, scrolled through it calmly. Let's see. Patterson Family Trust, currently 3 months behind on payments. Michael Patterson, 2 months behind. Country club membership loan, also in arrears. Richard was sweating now. Mr. Lee, surely we can discuss this privately? Privately? My father asked. The way you privately asked my daughter about her better-sounding American name? The way you privately suggested she stay with her own kind? Barbara gasped. Mr. Lee, I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, my father said coldly. I've been listening from the terrace for the past 20 minutes. Your family has spent the evening treating my daughter like a stereotype, questioning whether she belongs here, asking about her cultural requirements. Michael appeared at my side, looking mortified. Mr. Lee, I am so sorry. I had no idea You had no idea because you didn't want to see it, my father interrupted. For 2 years, you've brought my daughter around people who can't even be bothered to use her real name. Richard tried to salvage the situation. Mr. Lee, families can be overwhelming. We're all just excited about the wedding. Are you? My father asked. Because your mother just advised my daughter to reconsider marrying your son, said she should stay with her own kind. All eyes turned to Eleanor, who looked like she wanted to disappear into her chair. And you, my father turned to Barbara, spent the evening asking about kimonos and karate, as if my daughter isn't American enough for your country club. We were just trying to be inclusive, Barbara stammered. Inclusive, my father repeated, by calling her Jenny instead of Jiwon? By asking where she's really from? By treating her like an exhibit in a museum? He pulled out his phone again. I'm curious. Do you know what happens when you default on a mortgage with Pacific West Lending? Richard's voice was barely a whisper. Mr. Lee, please. Foreclosure proceedings typically begin after 90 days of non-payment, my father continued conversationally. You're currently at 93 days. Your son is at 62 days. The room was dead silent. But here's what's interesting, my father said, looking around at the family. I've been willing to work with your family because of your son's relationship with my daughter. Extended payment plans, reduced interest rates, deferred penalties. He paused, letting that sink in. Unfortunately, tonight I've learned that this family doesn't respect my daughter, doesn't see her as an equal, thinks she should be grateful for the privilege of joining your little club. Mr. Lee, Michael spoke up desperately. I love Jiwon. I want to marry her. Do you? My father asked. Because love means protecting someone from this kind of treatment. Love means standing up when your family demeans the person you claim to cherish. I watched Michael struggle for words. Around us, his family looked increasingly panicked as they realized their financial situation was tied to the woman they'd spent the evening insulting. Jiwon, my father said, turning to me, do you want to marry into this family? I looked around at these people who had spent the evening making me feel small, foreign, unwelcome. People who saw me as lucky to be included, rather than worthy of respect. No, I said quietly. Then louder, no, I don't. I took off my engagement ring and placed it on the table. Michael looked devastated. Jiwon, please, we can work this out. I'll talk to my family. You've had 2 years to talk to your family, I said. 2 years to prepare them for who I actually am instead of letting them build fantasies about what they thought I should be. Richard tried one last desperate gambit. Mr. Lee, surely we can separate business from personal matters. Can we? My father asked. Because you spent tonight treating my daughter like a business transaction, like something your son acquired rather than someone he loves? He put his arm around me. Come on, sweetheart. Let's go home. As we walked toward the exit, I heard Richard calling after us. Mr. Lee, please, this is all a misunderstanding. We can fix this. My father stopped and turned back. Mr. Patterson, in 30 years of business, I've learned that people show you who they really are when they think it doesn't matter, when they think there are no consequences. He looked around the room. Tonight, you showed my daughter exactly who you are, and now you're learning about consequences. What does this mean for our loans? Michael asked weakly. It means, my father said, that you'll be dealing with our standard collections department from now on. No more family accommodations. No more extended payment plans. Richard's face went white. You can't do this over a social misunderstanding. I can do this because you defaulted on your loans, my father corrected. The social misunderstanding just means I'm no longer motivated to help you avoid the consequences. We left them standing there in their country club dining room, finally understanding that the woman they'd spent the evening patronizing was the daughter of the man who could destroy their financial lives. In the car, my father was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, I'm proud of you for walking away. I should have done it sooner, I said. You were trying to make it work. That's not wrong. But some people show you who they are. What happens now? I asked. Now, my father said. You remember that you don't need anyone's permission to be yourself. You don't need anyone's approval to belong somewhere. But what about the loans, the foreclosures? My father was quiet for a moment. Business is business, sweetheart. They defaulted long before tonight. I was doing them a favor because of you. Now that favor is over. 3 months later, Michael called me dozens of times. I didn't answer. He left voicemails begging me to reconsider, saying his family had learned from their mistakes, that they wanted to apologize. He never once apologized for failing to protect me from their racism. 6 months after the engagement party, the Patterson family lost their house. The country club membership was revoked. Michael had to move back in with relatives while his credit recovered. A year later, I ran into Barbara at a charity event. Jiwon, you look wonderful. I heard about your new position at Microsoft. Thank you, I said politely. You know, we always liked you. Richard was just nervous about meeting new people. He didn't mean anything by those comments. I stared at her. He asked if I had a better-sounding American name, Barbara. Your mother-in-law told me to stay with my own kind. She looked uncomfortable. It was just, you know how older generations can be. They don't know how to express themselves. They expressed themselves perfectly, I said. You all did. We miss having you around, she said. The family feels terrible about how things ended. What family? I asked. The one that scattered across different rental properties because they couldn't make their mortgage payments? Her face fell. That wasn't fair, Jiwon. Your father destroyed our lives over a misunderstanding. My father collected on loans that were already in default, I corrected. He just stopped doing you favors after you showed him who you really are. I walked away, leaving her standing there. 2 years later, I married David Chen, a brilliant software engineer who'd grown up in Portland. His family welcomed me with warmth and genuine curiosity about my work, my dreams, my ideas. They never once asked about my cultural requirements or suggested I needed a better name. At our wedding, my father gave a toast. Love, he said, means seeing someone exactly as they are and celebrating them for it. It means protecting them from people who would diminish them. It means building a life where they can flourish. He looked at David and smiled. Welcome to our family, son. We're lucky to have you. 5 years after that country club engagement party, I received an invitation to Michael's wedding. He was marrying a blonde woman named Ashley from his parents' social circle. I deleted the invitation without opening it. But I heard through mutual friends that Richard gave a toast about how wonderful it was to have a daughter-in-law who fits right in with the family. Someone who understands their values and shares their background. Someone safe. Someone who would never challenge them to be better than they were. Last year, I was featured on the cover of Forbes for my work in sustainable technology. The article mentioned that I was the daughter of David Lee, founder of Pacific West Lending, and that I'd built my career without relying on family connections. Michael sent me a congratulations message on LinkedIn. "Always knew you'd do great things," he wrote. "Hope you're happy." I didn't respond. But I was happy. Deeply, genuinely happy with a life built on respect rather than tolerance, acceptance rather than accommodation. Because here's what I learned. You don't have to earn your place in someone's life by making yourself smaller. You don't have to accept crumbs of respect from people who should be offering you the whole meal. And sometimes, walking away from people who can't see your worth isn't just self-respect. It's the best business decision you'll ever make. My name is Jiwon Lee, not Jenny, not whatever sounds better to other people's ears. I'm a Korean-American woman who built a successful career, married a man who loves exactly who I am, and learned that family isn't about blood or law. It's about people who see you, value you, and protect you. The country club family that thought I should be grateful for their conditional acceptance, they learned that consequences have perfect timing, and that respect, like a mortgage payment, isn't optional. It's the foundation everything else is built on. Sometimes the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. Sometimes it's simply refusing to let them be right about who you are.